thanks for joining us today. And is it a little louder, or am I good? How's that? All right. My name is Jason Knott. I am the editor of CE Pro, and I am very, very excited about moderating today's session, which is talking about something that I think is on the minds of almost everybody in the industry, and that is, what does the Matter standard mean for integrators? We all know this is coming, but what does it actually mean, and what can integrators do to be prepared? I want to thank Google for sponsoring the session today. Obviously, Google is very heavily involved in the development of Matter with some of the other key industry players. But I want to thank, shout out to Google. Thank you for sponsoring today's session. So we want this to be interactive. So we do have a microphone up here in the center aisle. So we ask, if you do have a question, that'll be my cue. I'll see you stand up and just go to the mic, and then I'll get to you, as soon as we have a gap in the conversation. But please ask questions. We want this to be interactive with you. So, all right. Let me introduce today's esteemed panel of experts. So we got a lot of content to get through, so we're going to go through it as fast as we possibly can. To my left is Kevin Poe, who is the Group Product Manager at Google. Thanks for joining me, Kevin. Also, next to him is James Shirty, Leviton's Senior Product Manager, Residential. Hey, James.
Happy to be here.
Next to him is G. Paul Hess, Control Force Chief Product Officer. Hey, G. Paul.
Thanks for having us.
Are those mics working?
Testing.
Hello.
Testing.
There they go. There we go.
1, 2.
And last but not least, Val Zinchenko, Samsung SmartThings Director of Global Business Development. Hey, Val.
Hey.
All right. We're going to have this. Everybody on the panel has really got a lot to say, and we're going to kind of round robin these questions, but everybody's going to kind of chime in. And like I said, I want to encourage questions. All right. Let me start with you on this, James. What is Matter exactly, and how is it different? What are we talking about?
So here we go. So Matter is a new smart home standard, really being developed by a group of companies within and under the Connectivity Standards Alliance, being driven by Google right here, silicon manufacturers, other companies such as
Can you guys
SmartThings and yourselves.
Talk a little louder.
A little louder?
There you
Is
go.
that working? I see Matter for me as a really an evolution of smart home technology, and something that can bring a more common communication language to devices, and also to the controllers that control those devices in the home. Matter is really a application layer based protocol. Is that working? There we go. Sorry.
Pretend you're singing.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I don't sing too much. Matter is a language, right? An application-based protocol. It's going to run over. It's going to work on Wi-Fi networks. It's going to work over Thread networks. So I really wouldn't think of it as another RF standard as much as a common language that will allow more devices to connect and be interoperable.
All right, so Kevin, he mentioned that Google is vital in the development of this. Tell us, who is actually developing this Matter standard?
Yeah, as James mentioned, we're doing the Matter. Can you guys hear me now? Good? Better? Okay, great. I guess I'm going to have to hold it up pretty closely. But as James mentioned, this is a really big community effort across the entire industry. And so with it, Google, with a number of key industry partners, back in December 2019, formed the Matter initiative in the Connectivity Standards Alliance. So for those who are familiar with the Zigbee Alliance, that was the old name, the Connectivity Standards Alliance. So within the what we call the alliance itself, we now have over 200 member companies actually involved in the initiative to define the specification itself. So with that includes the specification, the test requirements, and also the certification, branding, and such that kind of come with it too. But yeah, it's a really a cross-functional group. Google, we're super excited about it. We've been we have a number of engineers who've been involved in the spec development, in the test development, in the marketing and branding and such. But it's really with 1,000 plus somewhat other engineers in the alliance itself.
All right, G. Paul, let me ask you this question: what is the power and reliability of Matter? Obviously, it's in terms of how it's going to connect and help wirelessly connect with everybody.
Well, it's great. It's great to finally have a standard that we have more companies starting to align to, and that's going to really be empowered through the Wi-Fi network or the network of the home. So that is a ubiquitous way. It's the one method that we all seem to agree on communication. So it's going to provide a lot of power and a lot of interoperability capability, which is what we're looking forward to.
All right, hold the mics close.
Along those lines, just
Yeah.
wanted to jump in. I think we covered what Matter is.
Good job.
All right. I just want to explain a little bit how it's different from existing standards and what additional value it brings to consumers. I think the biggest advantage that Matter brings is portability, what we call Matter multi-admin. It's the ability to connect your smart home devices to various voice controllers and smart apps and ecosystems. Imagine a household that where different family members use different voice controllers or entry points. It's really painful today to share devices between these different ecosystems, and that's exactly what Matter solves. So we're personally very excited about that.
All right, go ahead, James.
I can add to that just a little bit. We do some of that today with cloud-to-cloud style integrations, right? But that brings up, as a manufacturer or even an integrator, that brings up a lot of challenges with the development of those products, the setup and provisioning of those types of solutions. Matter is a local protocol, so you can communicate across multiple controllers with your endpoints much more easily in terms of. So if you have a mixed household, different users using different types of interfaces to control their products, Matter is going to allow that at a much more easy level.
All right, we got a lot of ambient noise, so I'm a loud voice. My wife can tell you that. So keep it loud. All right, Kevin, you mentioned Z-Wave a second ago. What didn't you mention? Z-Wave Alliance?
The Zigbee Alliance.
Zigbee Alliance.
Yeah.
Sorry, Zigbee Alliance. One of the Z-Wave. What does Matter mean to these existing protocols, wireless protocols like Zigbee and Z-Wave that are out there right now? Are they going to go away? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this, and I think James and I think G. Paul actually has some additional thoughts on this too. This is where, when we kind of take a step back, right? Like the smart home as an industry has grown, remarkably over the past decade. Like especially if you kind of look across this room, there's a lot of great products that solve really meaningful use cases for users, right? And so with that, there have been a number of protocols that have been defined up until this point, and with it, they have their benefits and advantages and such. Matter has a number of key innovations with it, like the ones that that Val had mentioned, where it's a bit different, right, than the Zigbees and the Z-Waves and such. But the goal is that hopefully as a user, I just want all my devices to work. Ultimately, I bought some devices. I just want them to communicate locally, reliably, securely, and such. And so with it, Matter will work alongside those devices too. So many device makers and manufacturers have paths to help users get them all connected together. So as an example, some manufacturers are creating just like bridges, for instance. And so with it, Zigbee and Z-Wave devices can work through a bridge to interconnect and work with Matter devices. Other ecosystems and platforms will actually continue maintaining and growing, supporting their own integration. So for instance, as Google, we have over 250 million connected devices through our Works with Google Home program itself. That's where a lot of devices are connected through our cloud-to-cloud integrations. That's going to continue. We're going to keep adding more features and growing that overall experience. Matter's a new integration path through it that helps you kind of get interconnected with that, and we're kind of again to kind of help blend it seamlessly in the background for our users. Finally, actually a number of devices are in the field have the radios that Matter devices speak over. So Wi-Fi and Thread, or what we call 802.15.4 radios, those are already out there in the field, and there's millions of devices out there like that. Depending on what the manufacturer wants to do, they can actually upgrade their devices in field to support Matter too. And so hopefully through that, there's kind of three different ways that, with other protocols, they can all kind of coexist together in, users' homes. And so especially with installers such too, a lot of the users are going to have questions, are going to want that support to actually go through that process. And, installers are going to have a great opportunity to work with their customers to kind of get them on board in that fashion. But I think, G. Paul, you probably have a lot of thoughts on this too. I'm kind of curious what you...
Well, I think you hit on it exactly, that with Matter and then all the other communication protocols that are out there, there's a use case, an application for each one of those. So they will complement one another. There's very specific use cases where Z-Wave is going to be low battery draw. Zigbee will be great for penetration and some high density applications. And of course, as we all know, as I just said, Matter is going to take it to the Wi-Fi connectivity. So there still remains a use case, but bridges, and that's exactly how our products behave in the Control4 product line, is we're a bridge that brings all that together. And there's many other examples like that are in the market.
I think it's important to understand that Matter is not replacing existing smart home standards. It's complementing. And so I'll give one example. SmartThings was one of the pioneers of what the modern smart home hub is today. We supported Zigbee and Z-Wave 10 years ago. And we will be updating our SmartThings hub to support Matter, but it doesn't mean that we're dropping support for Zigbee and Z-Wave. We have tens of millions of devices in the field today and millions of customers that are relying on those products and those protocols. So I think truth of the matter is that Matter will coexist with other protocols for quite some time.
I'll just add, as an integrator, that gives you a lot of flexibility of choice on how you want to design your system for your customer, and the product categories and the amount of different devices that you'll have access to. So depending on what you're trying to do, you can bring in a Zigbee product, you can bring in a Z-Wave solution if you need something for like a sensing application, and then you can mix and match that with all kinds of new Matter devices, whether it's using Matter over Wi-Fi or Matter over Thread. So a lot of it's going to come down to a wider field of choice and product, and also the type of control system you adopt and how you bridge those devices into it.
So just as a follow-up on that, G-Paul, then an integrator, would he have to design a system differently for Matter than he or she would be designing a system today for one of the other wireless protocols?
Well, that's the beauty of the Matter protocol and how it's going to operate is for what we're all experiencing in the do-it-for-me world with integrators involved, very accustomed to designing high-powered network systems that provide great coverage inside, outside the home or the small business. And the short answer is no, because we're using that communicator or that layer to communicate. So theoretically, for what we do today, plays forward to be able to take advantage of the Matter protocol.
All right, we got a question. Hopefully that mic is hot. As close as you can.
Hello? Okay, I just want to say I'm a former commercial AV guy. These microphones are not omnidirectional, so if you hold it and point it straight at your mouth, he won't have to turn it up so loud that we're getting all the feedback. So don't hold it up and down, point it towards your mouth, and you won't have to talk loud and he won't have to turn it up. It's feeding back really bad right now, so.
We didn't hear the first half of what he said because we couldn't hear it. Get intimate with the microphone.
No, but it's the angle. It's the angle. There you go.
I'll try it again. Much better? Feel it?
So
Perfect.
when he was saying the key to life, you missed that whole section? Oh, man. Darn it. Lucky I heard it. Yeah. Question.
Hey, how are you guys? Thanks for doing this. So I follow the YouTube smart home community, and it's mainly do-it-yourself in terms of Google, Apple, Amazon, things like that. So I just wanted to know your guys' opinion with the introduction to Matter. Right now, everyone I've talked to, they love Control4. So they say, you don't need to learn anything else, learn Control4. In terms of my smart home, I use Apple, so sorry to Google. But I wanted to know your guys' perspective on, we talk about the integrator of 2027. Do you think that Apple, Google, and Amazon is going to have a bigger place in this stage, and is it a threat to existing integrators? And that's my question.
Can I take that one? I'm sure I'll share with the stage here. There's no question. There's more and more technology going into more and more homes and small businesses today. Every day, it's just the speed and delivery of technology is incredible. And there's a use case and an application for all this technology. From Snap One and Control4's point of view, we embrace all this DIY. What it does is it drives awareness. It helps validate exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis. And there's many projects that any one of the brands up here on the stage can fit that project. There are other projects where you might have an affluent customer or a larger scale system that goes beyond what typically DIY might provide, and that's where there's an opportunity for an integrator. So, if I'm projecting 4 years forward, we were just at the beginning of all this technology, and the goal of Matter is to make sure that it starts to play nice and make all of our work lives as custom integrators easier to deploy that technology, easier to support that technology, and then ultimately the end customer's life, they have a much better experience of all these things working well together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to just kind of build on what G. Paul mentioned. Like this is ultimately, like with Matter, it's really just a way for all devices to speak the same language, right? And so with that, then for users who, is that, okay, much closer, okay. With the DIY users, they get a lot of benefits, right? Because they are able to, pick and choose the devices they want, have it kind of like all kind of paired up, and at some point, if they want to, add a new system, hopefully a Google Home one, and at some point, it's a really easy way to get on board. But I think we found that there's over 20 devices per home, like smart home devices these days, and that's continuing to grow, right? And for a lot of users, they don't want to do it all themselves, right? I think, as you're probably very aware, having integrators who can help and kind of do it for me is a really important, like value add for them. And so with it going from 20 beyond and so forth, Matter only helps around that because the user then gets choice of what they actually want. And with it, you'll have a really easy way to get all of them to kind of work through with a really clean content language and stuff on top. So it really is all complementary and really kind of helps kind of lift all boats, right, as that kind of tide rises.
Great, thank you.
The way I like to think about Matter is it's about access. So we talk a lot about DIY users, but I think the real scale comes with when Matter unlocks the mass consumer market, and Matter is really making big strides in that direction. So at Samsung SmartThings, we will be enabling Matter controller functionality on a lot of household devices that users already have in their homes, like your smart TVs, smart monitors, even smart refrigerators. When Matter comes to these products, we're unlocking a whole new market that has been not active in smart home to date.
Val, let me stay with you on this question. I asked G. Paul earlier about topology and design system. What about interfaces? Does this mean that we're going to need fewer touch panels, more voice control, and the network router itself? Is that going to have to be changed out or swapped out, or can that adapt to Matter?
No, and that's the beauty of it. It's all about choice. Now we're rating all these different control points and interfaces. Again, I'll use a familiar example. If you're an owner of a smart TV or a Galaxy smartphone, you have SmartThings natively installed there, so your preferred mobile app or smart TV app can be SmartThings, and then your interface becomes your TV remote control. So that's the beauty that Matter brings to different interfaces.
Yeah, I would agree with Val. When we think about user interfaces, it's about meeting the customer where they want to interoperate their system. That might be a touchscreen on the wall. That could be a mobile device in or outside the premises. That could be through voice. That could be through ambient, where things are scheduled or set up to happen on an action or a scene or event. So, no, in fact, again, I think this all helps create, even, as I said earlier, more awareness and more opportunity for us to deliver these user interfaces to experience all this technology together.
And that's a very good point about the value that the integrator can bring, to bring the exact interfaces that the customer wants in their house, be it scene controllers, touchscreens, like G. Paul mentioned, but now you get a wider portfolio of devices within that you can bring to the customer and control through those interfaces.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I want to say thank you for doing this Matter panel, and that you guys are the true pioneers of the Matter smart home, and I really admire and respect all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a good question that you had too. All right, so G. Paul, let me ask you about the upgrade path for existing systems that might be out there. What is an integrator going to have to do when Matter comes to fruition with systems that he already has in play?
Well, I think, unfortunately, the answer is it depends. It depends on what existing system is out there. And while there is a lot of technology already deployed, it's going to be dependent on that technology's chipset and capability to be upgraded. So you're really going to have to look to the manufacturer to understand if that technology has a capability. When I think about more the DIFM where we operate, the answer is no. So if there's a Control 4 system involved, as an example, we in the future will be able to act as that controller, that bridge, and continue to onboard not only the protocols we have today, but any new protocol in the future. So unfortunately, the answer is depends. But I think there's a path that a lot of manufacturers see of bringing up their technology to make sure they can adapt to the latest standards.
There's also an important call out with this too, where we spend a lot of time talking about Matter, and what Matter is that application layer protocol, right? That language where all devices can speak together on top of like network layers and such. And so Matter will run on top of Wi-Fi, but also another technology called Thread. And so for those unfamiliar with Thread, it's a reliable mesh networking technology built on top of 802.15.4. And so with it, it's great for use cases where you need like highly reliable, like long-lived battery life products in the home. So like if you imagine like a motion or occupancy sensor or a lock where you kind of have it at the edge of your house, and you want it on like you want to like have it on for again over a year, and it's a pretty highly reliable use case and secure, where like you just want it on all the time. You don't quite want it to fall off if you want to kind of remotely lock or unlock, or kind of see that someone's kind of entered or entered the home. So Thread does require a different radio than what Wi-Fi has, and so today there is this like a Thread footprint, but it's gonna be required to kind of grow over time to kind of have Matter run on top of it. And so as Google, we actually have that technology built into our Nest Hub Max, our Nest Hub second generation, and some other products. And with that, other industry partners are also integrating technology there. That mesh and that footprint in the home is going to be super critical, and hopefully over the coming years we're able to, as an industry, get that out there, and then with it, then Matter can really be extended to those use cases that were just kind of described.
So Val, you mentioned something earlier about smart appliances, and so this is a category where I can remember coming to one of the shows and there was a smart appliance, and I recognized for 3 years in a row it had the exact same dent in it. And I said to the guy, I go, well, what's wrong with that? Are you selling a lot of these? And his exact words, I'll never forget, were, we can't keep them in stock. And I said, does that mean you're selling them? He goes, we can't keep them in stock. In other words, they weren't selling them. But smart appliances, we hear a lot of talk about it. Is Matter going to all of a sudden bring this category up to the fruition where we're going to see more integrators involved in really talking to designers and bringing in those smart kitchens, so to speak, to a more mainstream portion of their business?
The answer is yes. There are many teams that are currently working in CSA on defining what appliance is going to look like in Matter. And Samsung's obviously a participant in these groups. So smart appliances actually present really interesting opportunities. I'll take an example of a Family Hub product that Samsung makes. It has a big display built in directly into the fridge door. So again, it can enable use cases like seeing who's at the door and having your security camera feeds directly on your smart fridge door, or controlling your Nest thermostat right there. And we will be bringing Matter controller functionality to these types of devices so that users can control their smart home directly from their smart fridge.
I love the new features in the smart refrigerators, that the freshness, where it can actually determine that you've got something in the refrigerator that has, as George Carlin used to call it, meat cake. It's either meat or it's cake, but we don't know which one it is. But I love that, and be able to get that alert of, look, you've got to get, you got to clean out that drawer. All right. Let me ask you this, Kevin. When is Matter going to actually officially be out and we're going to start seeing products?
That's been a very popular question for a while. The Matter specification is kind of it's still kind of in development, but it'll be released very shortly. And so with that, we would expect later this year products that go through the certification process can begin upgrading themselves to Matter. And so across the industry, we'll probably see that kind of begin coming about. And then from there, devices that support Matter natively, like right out of the box, I expect maybe there's some early birds that would be in the market by end of year, but really we're going to see that bulk kind of like Q1 23 and beyond. As Google, we'll actually be updating our Nest displays, speakers, and Android to Matter later this year once the Matter spec is finalized.
James or G. Paul, you want to tell us what's the status on from your standpoint, timetable?
Yeah, so I think I agree with Kevin on end of the year in regards to the Matter launch and the initial devices you'll start seeing. For Leviton, with our smart device, smart lighting controls platforms, we go way back, all the way back to X10 and the early days of Z-Wave, and now Zigbee, Wi-Fi. So, Matter is something that we believe in, and something that we are absolutely working on solutions for. Unfortunately, I can't give away too much timing yet, but we are very excited for it. We're excited to see what the end of this year will bring.
G. Paul?
There's a couple more elements to the answer. It's, again, we're going to see devices later this year, but there's also a timetable for various subcategories of products that are further out as well. So you're going to see certain categories with certain manufacturers late year, but then it'll start to follow into following years. For Control 4, we've understood interoperability for 15 years. In fact, that's what Control 4 was founded on. And so predating Matter, we've got 20,000 drivers that we've worked with, many of the folks on the stage and many of the partners here on the floor. So we understand this interoperability. As we think about when we're going to deploy Matter, I can't give full details to roadmaps here, but we have to remember that we are not a direct-to-consumer product line. So it's not typical that you would buy a Watt box or whatever brand from us as a consumer and deploy it in a house and roll it into a Matter system. I would look for Matter to be in a future operating system release from us for our core controllers and act as that bridge for all these devices that we can then bring into the system and make part of the experience.
Yeah, I just wanted to add here. So we were in a fortunate position to see what devices are going to be coming to the market this year. Earlier, we launched a partner early access program for Matter, and we worked with select device manufacturers to test their products against our SmartThings Hub that has Matter controller functionality and the SmartThings app. So the device manufacturers were able to take advantage of seamless onboarding into the SmartThings app, and it can't say how many devices are going to be launched this holiday season, but it's quite a few, so we're excited.
Question.
Hi, I'm Tommy with By Design. So most of you guys on the panel are
Get close as you can. There you go.
Most of you guys on the panel are on the control side. My question is, for a manufacturer that wants to develop product to work on Matter, what are the hardware and software requirements? For instance, like the lighting, are they going to have a Control 4 specific driver, or does Matter take care of that?
Well, I can answer from a Control 4 standpoint. Is there'll be this Matter protocol once embedded. We will be able to communicate with any device that is speaking that language. I mean, at the very basics, Matter is simply a communication language, is all that really is. So once we have that ability inside of our bridge, inside of our controllers, we will be able to bring that in because we're creating profiles. I mean, that's what Matter does, is create a profile on how a device or subcategory devices operates.
I'm happy to take the question too. Like I think your question is like let's say I'm like a light device maker. How do I actually integrate Matter, right? And what do I need to do around it? So Matter is actually intended to run on really like low memory, like small microcontrollers. And so so the thought was let's build for really small like small memory constrained devices, and then scale up from there. And that way we can meet like the multiple use cases like appliances and so forth. So with that, it's hard to kind of state like exactly how much memory it takes because it's really kind of dependent on the actual implementation. But really for really small thread Bluetooth radios, it's intended to go fit that. So if you have a favorite silicon provider, they very likely have a reference implementation of Matter working on it. So if you're interested, there's actually one of the key innovations with the Matter, and what really helped it get to really fast time, what's helping it to get really fast time to market, is that in addition to the specification development, all the companies that I previously described, we're all working together in a community-based implementation of it. And so if you were to go to the GitHub, there's actually an open source implementation of the Matter specification protocol. So with that, a lot of silicon providers have actually developed reference implementations in that repository where you can essentially take that open source code, run it on your favorite target platform, kick the tires, and from there it's get a sense of how you can kind of integrate that into your product. So for device makers, a lot of them are going down that process, and once they understand what's kind of capable, how much work it is, it just kind of goes through their normal development process. And at some point, once they're ready, they'll go through the certification through the Connectivity Standards Alliance, and they'll be able to kind of go to market.
James, let me ask you this: where are the chipsets going to come for Matter?
So Kevin kind of touched on it right now, that within the development of the Matter spec, there are already a lot of silicon providers who are contributing to the spec, who are helping to drive that, and are already working on a lot of Matter-enabled chipsets that as a manufacturer you can go and get. So I think that, while supply chain can be an ongoing challenge for manufacturers and providers, there's a collective effort to make it happen, and there are investments actively being made in the microcontrollers and in the hardware that we're going to need to put in our products to enable Matter support.
This might be the $64,000 question, G. Paul. What should integrators, everybody in the audience and everybody watching this, be telling their customers right now? Wait until Matter's going to come out at the end of the year. We're going to have all these new devices. It's going to be a new protocol. You're going to need a new router, whatever. What should they be saying right now to their customers?
Well, step one is always education. So invest the time to educate the customer about their options and explain the differences from the different manufacturers that are on the stage and what the experiences might be. We call them smart living experiences depending on the platform. No reason to wait at all, because again, the fact that there's going to be bridges that can pull these devices together, there's nothing to wait on. The deployment of the network is going to work going forward, and then the devices, the controllers like ours, will help pull all those things together. So keep moving forward.
Kevin, any thoughts on that?
I mean, G. Paul, I think, touched on it quite well. I think it's one of those things where if the customer is interested, like there's no need to wait. Actually, just get on board. As mentioned, there's a lot of great migration paths to help the user into a post-Matter world, and all the technologies are intended to exist very complementary to each other.
All right, I am out of questions. We hit our half-hour mark, but if there's any other questions from the group, from the audience, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank Google for sponsoring today's session. Hopefully you got a sense of what Matter is and how it can help your business. Oh, wait, question? We got a question, sorry. Can't leave, guys.
I've been having the question of, is Matter actually going to help differentiate? So, for example, if Google shares their video to SmartThings, right? You can see the video, but you have your learning algorithm that does facial recognition when someone drops off a box. Is that a concern that they would take that video and then create their own algorithm? And then, so what are those, and then the homeowner's going to be affected obviously by that, right? They're going to say, oh, I'm using SmartThings, but I like the Google algorithm that's not available on this other platform.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it's also there's a level of detail on what Matter is and what Matter is not. And so one analogy I use with Matter is that it's kind of like USB for the home, right? Like if I imagine I have a light or a switch or a lock, I have the ability for that light lock switch to kind of work with whichever app or ecosystem I choose now, right? And in the past, I had to go through all these complicated setup and linking flows, and if I wanted to add a new system, right, like a control floor or something, I'd have to go through even more steps to kind of get on board. Actually, with it, it's much more seamless now, where it's I can, to the multi-admin feature, kind of have an easy way to kind of import in there. But with it, once that device is integrated, what Matter defines is what we have as a common data model. And so what that means is there's a definition of what a light is, again, lock and plug. And so there's on, off, color, temperature, brightness, and so forth. So this is where a number of the automation features that you described, those are ones where you actually have the choice on which user experience that you like the most. And with that, you can kind of pick and choose which of those systems that you want. So I think with it, there's the ability, right, for companies and integrators and the overall ecosystem kind of up level where the innovation occurs, right? So we're not worried about, okay, does this thing kind of plug into the system that I choose? No, that's taken care of through Matter. It's you now have that choice to kind of figure out where your most desired experience is.
So there still will be differentiation between the groups, potentially through
software, for the full ecosystem. This is where for a device maker, if I wanted to innovate through the sensing technologies, through how I kind of integrate automation intelligence, there's that capability, and there's what's kind of common, and then there's space in the actual specification protocol to create that canvas for everyone to continue innovating.
That's what we call the special sauce. right? So for device makers, Matter gives you that framework for base level of control, communication. You don't have to worry about that. But companies will still have their own apps that might deliver features and added benefits that Matter doesn't support today. So you're still going to have competition. You're still going to have that differentiation, but you're going to have it's going to take some of the headache and complexity away out of what works with what and that base level of communication between devices in the home.
Got it. Yeah, I'm going to pile on only because it's a really important question and distinction. The fact that we're all working on Matter just rises the level for all of us to interoperate.
Absolutely.
That's where this industry has been challenged. I mean, go back 20, 30 years, we have still not been able to standardize on a protocol. And so this is the closest thing we've seen, and you've got a lot of big names from all SaaS companies behind it. So this helps all of us, and then that's where each one of our platforms will deliver that different experience.
Absolutely, and you see that a lot of platform providers here, we're equally excited, not only device manufacturers, but also platform providers benefiting from that because connectivity is becoming standardized, so that kind of removes a lot of barriers to adoption. So we can focus on building experiences on a higher level. That's what matters.
Awesome, thank you.
Great question.
Hello again. Nice pun. That's what matters. So I guess it's kind of a follow-up question to what the previous gentleman asked. So things are going to become more commoditized with Matter. Would you agree with that?
If you're directed at me, commoditized? No, I don't think it becomes more I think it opens up the aperture of more opportunities for us as either custom integrators or as consumers of the technology.
Standardized is a better word.
Okay. So let's say I make a light bulb. I don't. So what in what aspect can a product stand out? Are they going to be competing on price? Are they going to be competing on features? Are they going to be competing on reliability? Which of those or any other ones do you think is going to be the most important aspect?
I think it's going to depend on the application, right? There's products for all budgets, for all different various kinds of applications, use cases, and that's where we all add our special sauce. I think it's the word that James used earlier for the applications that we typically serve. So yes, at the end of the day, are they all light bulbs? But what's the color temperature? What's the form factor? What's the price point? Which all these things create the value. So Matter simply is the ability for us to intermix, where if you find one that you really like that might be from one of our manufacturing brands up here, but you want to combine it with another experience, that's what Matter unlocks and enables.
Very cool. Thank you.
All right, we are up against the gun. Thank you so much. Again, a round of applause for the panel and for Athane. Again, a shout out to Google for sponsoring. Sorry about the audio issues.